Juliet just came straight out. I didn't even have to introduce her. How you doing, Juliet? Sit down. She has a whiskey. That's grand. No, but that's fine. I think John's going to wander on now as well. Give them a round of applause. It's our panel. They're a very informal panel. I was going to do like a little routine at the top, few gags, warm them up, but look, they're grand. You're nice and warm today anyway. It's like 19 degrees, so we're fine. Is everybody feeling good? Yeah. Because it's the weekend and it's lovely weather. We're all feeling very well. The lads got whiskies. Unfortunately, I don't know if there's any more to go around. Oh, it's a beer?
We weren't
Okay.
doing whiskey.
I don't know why I thought it was whiskies. But. So, let me tell you about who we have on our panel here this evening, because we've got a brilliant panel. We've got, for a music panel, I always like to see a Carpenter and a Martin. McCallion, that's a new one for the music industry in terms of the Carpenters. I was thinking the House Martins or Chris Martin.
We're an accordion band.
Yeah, you're an accordion band. The McCallion.
Exactly, it's a four-piece.
Right, I can't wait to hear them later on. There will be live performances from the McCallion Accordion Orchestra later on. Okay, let me tell you about the panel here this evening, because we're here for a sync seminar. That's SYNC, just in case you're wondering. We'll be talking about syncs on a different evening. So first of all, immediately when we're right, it's Juliet Martin. Juliet has worked as a music publisher for over 15 years and established Silverstream Music in 2008, providing a variety of services including publishing, composer representation and music supervision for film and television and advertising as well. And Silverstream represents numerous artists including Donal Lunny, Rocstrong, award-winning composer Stephen Rennicks from Room and Frank the Movies, and John Walsh, who scored global campaign for major brands like Jameson, Guinness and Vodafone, and she has just completed working on the second series of the excellent RTE comedy, Can't Cope, Won't Cope. So I give it for Juliet. Here she is this evening. Yeah. Terry Nelson Carpenter is a legend of the music industry. Currently, is that alright? I can say that. Someone wrote down veteran. I said I'm crossing it out, but legend in. Alright. Is currently the president and CEO of Real Music Works. They're a music rights management company that specialise in global writer and publisher administration, license and clearance, and music supervision as well for all media. She was in her career to date responsible for overseeing the Fox Family Saban's global music business, and also before that she served as music admin and production executive at the Metro Goldwyn Mayer Studios. So a brilliant resume, and we're going to get very quickly into what Terry has done in the industry and start off looking at some of the stuff she's placed. And finally, last but definitely not least, John McCallion runs a music consultancy and sync agency based in Dublin, working around advertising, television, film and partnerships. He represents the Warner Music and W Songs catalogues in Ireland. Recent campaigns he's worked on include Aer Lingus, On Post, which I think we'll be getting to a little bit later on as one of our examples, AIB, Bank of Ireland, Dairygold, Electric Ireland, Guinness. And you have all of those in your cupboard at home, and you have them all at the same time. Guinness and Dairygold.
It's sandwiches afterwards, it's potato sandwich.
Yeah, potato sandwich, okay. On brand partnerships, John's worked with All Twins, Stephanie Rennie, Little Hours, You Vagabonds, Brescian Super Value campaign, The Academic with Deezer, Gavin James Rudimental, and more on AIB's Spark Something campaign. So actually, I didn't actually say a big round of applause for Terry as well, but Terry and John, round of applause and welcome them here today. So, if you haven't been here before, let me tell you how this is going to work. I'm going to ask some questions. Some of them will be good questions, some of them will be stupid questions, but they'll be fine, and there won't be won't put you on the spot or anything like that. And then you guys turn over to you. We're going to ask you to ask some questions as well. So if there's anything that's on your mind as you go, take note. There will be a chance for questions at the end. We thought a good way to start this particular seminar would be to look at some stuff. So this is from Terry's back catalogue. Terry, anything we need to remark upon before we kick off having a quick look at this?
Other than it is a collection of placements, the first one of which is the most recent and largest placement. So watch the reel and then we can talk
Let's
about
do
it.
it. Let's watch Terry's reel. I think that deserves a round of applause. That's some serious blockbuster work there. Terry, obviously some movies that were I've seen myself and some others that I haven't.
That's good, thank you.
Yes, I'm proper blockbusters in there. I'm not familiar with Morris Chestnut, but if his works is half as good as his name, I think I want to see more from that guy.
Tell me about Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Like, that was an incredible placement to get, I'm sure.
Thank you. It was just, to start with on that reel, the reason I did it that way and our partner J2 Entertainment placed it that way was to give you an idea of what it's like for song placement. There were so many different examples of how music is used in that entire reel. So we kind of gave you a lot at once, but you can see that pre-existing music was used. You can see, and trailerized, and I think our friend here will talk more about how that gets done in trailerizing music. You can have original music, you can have pre-existing songs, you can do re-records. There's so many different ways to get music placed in films. So Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Let's reel back to Guardians of the Galaxy 1. When that soundtrack came out, or when it was being produced, everybody was vying for a spot on that. And the reason they were is that it's been a long time since, other than Rock of Ages, that we've had just a high blockbuster movie that was ready to spend some money on older songs, but they were all chart-topping songs. At the time that the first movie came out, I didn't have the catalog that I had for the second movie. I got it right after they closed production on the first. So we were the first ones in for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And that was in 2014. For every month for the next 24 months, we had to follow up. We had to find out whether our music was going to be used and try not to be offensive in the process because, these things take time, especially with the blockbusters. They're going to take a lot of music and they're going to clear all of it, but they're not going to use all of it, and it could fall off, at the last minute. So we did not know until the actual distribution of the movie to the theaters that it was actually in it, and that was in April 2017. And so we waited a real long time. But guess what? We gave them the rest of our music in that process because we know that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is going to start producing in 2019. And they're already looking at music.
Just ask how you selected that in terms of how you categorise that when you were sending it to them?
Well, the thing is that they were already asking for a certain period of music. So we were able to meet that expectation. But what happened here is, we have a lot of disappointments in this business. You put so much music out there and you're praying that it gets used. And in this regard, we hit the jackpot because we were not only the montage scene, the longest running song in the movie, but we were also the song for the trailer. We were also one of the lead tracks off the soundtrack. And we were also featured in merchandise. They had a limited editions Dorito bag with a little cassette player in it, and it was our song. So, when they hit, they can hit big.
What was that song, Terry?
Come a Little Bit Closer by Jay and the Americans. And this is an old song. And what was so cool about that is that you get paid for the placement in the movie. You get paid extra for out-of-context trailers. You get paid extra for it to be on the soundtrack, and you get extra for merchandising. And they get paid. That's all accumulated into your fees. And then, whatever kind of deal you can, break down with respect to rollover units or whatever, they like to get a buyout, but I will tell you, we did great on the fees, and our performance revenue has been through the roof.
And Terry, can I ask who your main point of contact is when you're chasing that up, and who are you dealing with?
We dealt with the music supervisors. We've partnered with them on other projects. And so we partnered with them on this. We knew that they were going to be looking for this kind of music. And since we have worked on a really strong relationship with them, we were able to say, hey, here's our portfolio. Put it in your editor's database.
It's a slow and steady game, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And they picked it.
So you put a lot of work in before you even know you're getting paid in that regard, Terry.
The amount of research that goes into sending music to production is phenomenal. And I know we were all three talking about that before, and we have a slightly different process, but it ends up being the same.
Yeah.
For us, we have a special deal with Variety Magazine, and we pay for this service, and we are able to know all productions, film and television, when they are going to be greenlit, who are all of the players with respect to producer, director, showrunner, music supervisor, if they have one, contact information. We are able to have all of that. And what we do is we look at who those people are, and as they, whatever projects they've done in the past, we kind of know what they lean towards, what they like, and looking at their new project, we curate playlists that we submit to them.
So you're not even waiting for a brief. You're actually getting in it maybe ahead of the game and maybe second or
I think you have to.
guessing.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with the fall TV shows, and I mean, there really is no pilot season. It's all year round because we have so many outlets for, cable and TV and digital, and, so you're always in pilot season, if you will. There's always new shows on the horizon.
Juliet, tell us about your research and your pitching process then.
Yeah, I mean, timing is sort of key. I would try and find out when things are being made. And it's getting your music at the right time to people, So this is in my publisher hat when I'm trying to pitch music that way. I'd be looking at sort of websites like IFTN, scanon.com, I think it is. And there's a new nice one called Wrangle, which is giving you good information about what's happening in real sort of time. So you want to get in really in pre-production stage. You want to get in early. Yeah.
Because obviously you guys you're like, so much is going through you guys in terms of like your producers, your music supervisors, Terry on your side, but then obviously then the artists on the other and adding to your catalogue. And as you said, from going from 1 to 2, you made a big addition to your catalogue and you thought, I need to do this to take the next step up.
We're always looking for new music.
Okay.
And one thing that we were all talking about too is that we're getting a lot of briefs right now for period-specific music. And it's really kind of a drag for everybody who's writing brand new music, right? They want, I have several examples here, and we can talk about that later, but they want, music that is indicative to 1986 to 1988, Italian pop for the Luis Miguel movie. Oh my gosh, do we have that? Does anybody in here know? Okay, so
now you've got a brief already. One brief this evening.
we happen
Great.
to have it, but we were only by luck through a partner. Serious.
Alternatively, I'm always looking for music that's from emerging acts. Maybe because I'm working on smaller budgets, but that's really my main area. So I'd be looking at sort of who's on the one to watch list and Whelan's and emerging music. That's
for the likes of Can't Cope, Won't Cope.
Absolutely.
Is it because it matches the budget or because it matches the show or
both,
matches both?
Both, yeah. I think it's you want that fresh sound. There are people in their 20s.
Okay.
And there is a budget element too, no doubt. But I think almost the newer it is, the better for us and the show and the feel of the show. And the same for the likes of A Date for Mad Mary. It's very contemporary and you just want that fresh sort of sound,
John, I'm going to take a step back because obviously we're pitched straight in the middle of like what you guys do. But will you describe your job for me when people say, "What do you do, John?" Like, what do you do?
I try and help artists get featured on TV, ads, games, film. I guess one side I got the Warner Catalogue, which obviously it's known, so it's everything from your Ed Sheeran to Led Zeppelins, but there's developing artists through there as well. Like with All Twins came through there, obviously an Irish band. I have a guy called Outsider. I think you met him, Paddy.
I did, yeah.
He's an Irish writer, an artist, a solo artist. He's signed to a publisher that we set up within Warner called W Songs, and he had the game that he had the only Irish track on FIFA 18 this year. Yeah. I also had a couple of tracks on Shadowhunters in the US as well. But that's kind of through using the Warner structure, and obviously I'm just the local end for that as well. So I'm kind of helping him out here, but he obviously has that structure to tap into. But I work with a lot of Irish artists directly. So say I did Paddy Hanna, not sure people would know him, but he's a 3 tracks feature I made in Chelsea, and that's come through a direct relationship with the supervisor. But she came over to see him at Hard Work Class Heroes, which helps if I'm not sure if we got a split between who's a writer only and who is a performing artist as well.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually.
We just maybe...
Quick scan of the room. So
census.
hands up if you are purely a writer-performer. Okay.
And then the rest are kind of your writers only or composers, is that right?
Composers. And probably some producers as well.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a mixed pool as it often is for IMRO. So John, just to kind of drill down a little bit on that as well. When you say that you've acquired the catalogue or you represent that catalogue,
Yeah.
do many others as well? How does that work? I'm always wondering about that from a publishing POV.
I suppose I'm not a publisher as such, I'm more an agent.
Okay.
So I would try and help the artists get their ducks in a row. I suppose it's kind of stepping back, and rather than kind of leaving here and kind of go, I got to send music to everybody, it's getting yourself organised. It's having, say, a system that you can dip into at any time, because it tends to come in at quite short notice. So if you have, say, one destination that has full track WAVs, instrumentals folder, stems if you can, especially for busy scenes, busy edits, they kind of need to be able to adjust the levels. They're not going to change the track dramatically, but they need to be able to just tweak it so they're not, so the VO isn't drowned out, or the lead actor or whatever it is. Plus the metadata tagging is really important, because it has to describe, has to have your contact details on it. So in the simplest way, if you're finding it hard to put it on the actual file like the MP3, you could have a little text file that has all the information you need, who the composer writers are, again, email, phone number, kind of genre, but just a full breakdown. If you look up metadata tagging online, you'll find kind of what to include. But just really important for you to find tracks when you're looking for them, isn't it?
Would you be jaundiced towards tracks that wouldn't have that, Terry and Juliet? Like, is that just a minimum requirement for you guys, or? Proper tagging, metadata, a full file. Maybe even the way you're presented the content in terms of like stems. Because I think it's like a lot of the times people are pitching a song. Hey, listen to my song. What do you think of my song? Well, how much do you want, or what do you ask for? Or is at the start, is it just enough to hear a song, Juliet?
Well, you know what? We ask for MP3s up front, and then when we need them, we'll get WAV files.
Okay.
That's how I would do it.
Yeah, you do the same.
Yeah, MP3s, and then if I think it's going to land,
we'll
then
take
a WAV.
That takes a lot of bandwidth. So, and
Yeah.
MP3s are what you can send easily. We use Dropbox for everything.
Yeah, it's handy.
That's how we speak.
Yeah, we do Dropbox too. Yeah, because we transfer expires, and
Yes.
Dropbox you can share with all the other members of the
Exactly.
team. So it's much the best.
What's worse than going into a link that you sent a week ago and it's expired, or it's just disappeared altogether? SoundCloud as well is okay, but
Yep.
I don't. Yeah.
But-
Dropbox stays.
it's better, yeah.
Yeah.
Because for me, I need to pull everything in and put it on my system, so that when you need it, I can send you an MP3 and then follow up with what you need.
If I am going to pitch to, putting the other hat on, and I'm going to pitch to production, if I don't have my metadata on there, it will be dismissed, period. They won't, they're going to pull it up first, they're going to look at who it is, and then they're going to play it. And if there's nothing there, you will not be considered, because that is minimum. And they have to know who to contact.
Yeah.
So if let's say you have this fine gentleman represent you, he's going to put his contact info on there so that they can reach you, so that you can make sure they get all the right information. But when you send it to him, make sure you have all your information on there so he can include what he needs to. Because it's critical. Because we get so much music that if we don't have it tagged, I honestly don't know who it's from time to time.
Yeah.
And we're trying to be very good about how we consume music and respectful of what is being sent to us, because you work really hard in creating that. So make sure that you identify it so that, perhaps you could be the next, Guardians of the Galaxy hit, You never know.
Can I ask you about sourcing music? Because obviously that's something that we're all interested in, because you guys are obviously, as I say, you're this kind of nexus between people that are going to use the music for entertainment, whether that's television, advertisements, gaming, whatever. And then on the other side are all these guys here who are, as you say, Terry, putting so much hard work into creating and probably putting a lot of thoughtful work into it. Like, is this the kind of thing? Because I think now people are cognizant of the fact that there is a really great revenue stream here, and it's not like, I think people are way better at actually thinking, okay, this could work on radio, but actually this could work in a movie, and I'm going to write my songs that are focused towards getting placed on maybe a blockbuster, whether it's a great lyric that's just going to be like, that might actually carry, that could resonate in a scene, as we've seen in so many instances. Juliet, how are you sourcing that music?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm licensing a lot of emerging music, I'm probably following blogs. I'd sort of listen to Pitchfork. I check that out. Niler 9. And then I have like trusted sources here in Ireland, people that I go to, independent, and in the UK, independent labels, independent publishers. And they might send me a monthly mailer and I'll listen to it because I know I can clear it. I respect the music that they've picked. I trust them. I know it's going to be good. So I suppose, and like what I listen to.
What gets you?
I just like it. I'm just a punter. Whatever's a good track,
What just gets
I like.
you, okay.
Yeah. But often I'll be listening to it with something in mind. So I'll have read the script and I'll be just thinking about songs that, and the director might have sent me a reference or two. And between that, I'll kind of just know instinctively what I feel is right for the series. And then I might do a big long list of music, even just a Spotify playlist, and you might bandy that about with the director and then narrow it down.
And when you say that playlist, how long is it? Could that be 20 songs, 30, 40?
Yeah, not too many. You don't want to, 20. That's how we work.
Yeah, it depends on how much. You know, it's a supervisor. Sometimes a supervisor has ADD and they can only listen to 3 songs. And boy, the intros better be great or else they're going to keep on going. Truly, they are that jam-packed. And there isn't one supervisor that doesn't consult with trusted sources. There is no one who has that kind of retention. They have to rely on other people to help them bring music to the forefront. We have song pluggers that we know. And we also have a social platform that we work that is closed platform between music supervisors where we say, hey, how do you clear this? Or do you guys have a song in this genre? I need it in 2 hours. I need it in 30 minutes. And guess what? I have yet to see any one of those requests go unanswered. Yeah. Not one.
As soon as they go unanswered, I just think, okay, no, I can't use you again.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So
you know the ones that'll be quick, and they're the ones that you go back to. And it can be an individual artist as well. I've like artists that I've licensed over the years, and I just go back to them because they're really good. I love their music, but also that we have this relationship and they're quick. I know that I'm not going to wait 3 days to get that MP3,
Exactly. Well, I mean, I don't know if you guys want to hear. I have a couple briefs so you guys can. Do you want me to read a couple?
Go for it. Yeah, let's go for that.
This kind of gives you an idea of what we get as music supervisors. Here's one that just came in. As requested before for the same show, The Life of the Singer Luis Miguel, which takes place in the late 80s, 1986 to 1988.
I think we have something in our catalogue, Terry.
Yeah, we need Italian pop songs from the 80s. These songs need to be upbeat. We see a handsome guy driving in a Ferrari in Italy. We need a one-stop in Italian, easily licensable. The budget is $3,500. And they gave you all of these references on the kind of sound that they want, and that's just one. Now, if I can mention right here, there are 3 things that I would love to share with you. If there's any takeaway that you get from me here today, it's these 3 things. To be able to place your music, you need to curate relationships. And those can take time, but you need to work hard on those. Network, network, network. Find out who the players are and reach out to them and reach out to them again. And just as when you are courting a new friend and you're kind and you're warm and you're friendly, be the same with them. You'll learn what kind of person they are by their response or non-response. But sometimes when we don't respond to requests, that doesn't mean we didn't get them when we haven't considered them. Sometimes we simply can't respond to everyone. We are trying to do that at our company, but sometimes it's impossible. So that's the first thing, relationships. Cultivate them and keep them going. The other one is give the music supervisor exactly what they ask for. And until you have a strong relationship with the person asking for music, don't give them that for laughs and giggles. I think this one would be really good. Oftentimes they really need to just cut to the chase, listen to the music and see if it fits. So really, and then tag your music as we talked about. And then the other thing is as much of a one-stop shop, meaning you own both sides or control both sides of the equation, sound recording and underlying copyright, those are going to be first considered.
Yeah, they're huge. That's huge. Yeah. When you're sending me music, the second line can be, I own all the rights to this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Because, I need to know that. Or I need to know what's ahead of me. If it's not that, that's fine, but I need to know, okay, I'm signed to Cobalt, right.
Yeah.
That's going to take X number of time, and that's okay, but I need to know that.
And oftentimes the people you're dealing with, you'll get to know that, you know what, we know that they hate when they work on a project, it's a one stop and it can't be one of the majors, sorry. Yeah. Because either they don't have the budget or it's going to take too long. Because most of these are, you have 24 hours, you have 8 hours. We just got one for 2 hours when right before we came out for a song called, replacing a song, in the summertime, that from the 70s. And they need a replacement, and we literally have 2 hours.
So they need a song with a similar vibe and
Correct.
a similar sentiment.
To replace it in a project.
Okay, and a similar lyric?
Yeah, it could be similar lyric. Yeah, no problem. As long as it's not a rip-off.
Okay.
Sound-alikes are dangerous. Very
Yeah.
dangerous. Be
I would
very
imagine,
afraid.
like, it is good to take inspiration from the stuff that is actually
You
getting
can,
placed.
yeah, absolutely. And we are asked, in music supervision, to replace a lot of music in given programs,
Wow.
right? You've had that too.
Replace, right.
And the
something
reason being is-
cheaper.
Right.
In advertising, that happens a lot.
Right.
Yeah. Then that's when the composer might come in.
Yeah, you might
Can't
get a
afford-
re-record, and I guess
Yeah.
for anyone that's a vocalist, that if you have a composer that you know that you could partner up maybe, because they could ask to get to do a bespoke version, but they might need a vocalist. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, you can sometimes team up that way.
Yeah, a lot of composers I work with would bring in a vocalist for a re-record. And yeah.
That's fascinating in terms of like all the stuff you've said already, like just those nuggets that, again, as someone who's seen publishers come back and with requests and this, that and the other, but even to hear from your side is, I feel like we're looking behind the veil here. We're looking at the Wizard of Oz and going, oh, hello. Come here, just on I guess what a lot of people in this room might encounter is an opportunity where they do send out their music and then they start hearing back from a publishing company in the United States that they've never heard of before, but who say, hey, look, you know what, we really like this music. Can we add it to our catalogue? And we just need you to sign this deal, and then they're locked into something that potentially they may not be able to get out of, or they're on a catalogue that for you guys, you're going to try and clear it, Juliet, then suddenly it becomes complicated. John, like, what's the pitfalls here for these people who may put their music out there into the world and actually get some positive vibes? And that's a lovely moment, but you have to be careful too, don't you?
Yeah, just be wary of what the track record of the person is. Sometimes you'll get a brief and it won't say what the product is, it'll say auto for car category or supermarkets. So you're allowing them to pitch your song forward based on the budget, but you don't know what the product is until it actually comes down to if it's going to go ahead or not. So if there's anything contentious that you don't want to be associated with, just to be asked for as much detail as possible and what the usage is as well.
The one thing that you have to understand in these kind of deals, and it's very important, because if someone like my company says, hey, I love your music and I'd like to include it in my catalog and I'd like you to sign a deal, it's not going to be for everything you've ever written in your life. It's going to be for a bucket of songs that we like, or sound recordings of whatever it is, if it's instrumental and not necessarily vocal. And we're going to ask for exclusivity. And the reason being is if you have more than one company going to a music supervisor with music, and they now are looking at two different people to deal with, you're gone.
When does that happen, Terry? Because I work in media, I'm always trying to clear songs, and then the heartbreak of like coming up against Ariana Grande. Oh, I've 7 publishers on one song. Oh. And then you have, the time difference is 10 hours and 6 hours and maybe one in the UK.
That's a little different than what I'm talking about,
right,
because we're talking about original work here that is not under a publishing deal, that is available to be, and one stop, as much as possible, is available for representation. And so they're going to rep and warrant that they control that. But if you, try clearing Uptown Funk. They have 8 or 9 publishers.
No diggity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Broke my heart. Months and months and months. There's
It's
just
crazy.
so many.
And you,
But that's when you ask for a replacement, or you've been asked for a replacement, I presume.
Sometimes there's just they don't want to replace it.
well,
I've
it
got a
depends. For reality
yeah.
television, I've worked with Talpa Media USA. I helped set up their company, and working on The Voice, working on The Voice Kids, working on Utopia, all of these different programs. And when they clear, they have to clear because either the contestant has sung that song, or
Oh, wow.
you know, the production's married to it. We try to pre-clear. Jill Myers is the gal who does all the clearing for The Voice, but it's you have to clear it. And when a director, or producer, or showrunner has their heart set on a song, you know, it's just going to happen because you know what? It's going to help sell the content. So they will jump through those hoops if they have the budget.
Sometimes they'll step out. It'll be an executive decision, say, even advertising here, if the budget is this much, but if they really, really want the track,
Oh, they're going to go for it.
it might come from the top.
Talk to me about something specific there. We're going to, Terry, we'd love more briefs actually, but we'll come back to those.
Okay, I have a few more.
Okay, we'll come back in a moment to the briefs. John, on John's placement for On Post, if you have that there, David. Well, actually, just before, as David's getting it up there, he's gone through the. Yeah, let's have a look at this. All right. So, John, anything that we need to say before we have a quick look at this?
Campaign that ran last summer for On Post parcels. It's kind of quite clever about breaking down borders. You see all these iconic landmarks from around the world suddenly coming onto the Irish coast, and it's a Richard Hawley track. Open up your door. But I'm going to go into it after you watch it.
Yeah, let's have a watch of it first.
Perfect. It's just real nice music, and just one piece of VO at the end. This was a joy, I guess, because we had 2 months before we actually went out. It was all kind of pretty much done. So the actual idea for the track came from the creative agency. One of the creatives there kind of had an idea for that track, who's a big music fan. So I just had to clear it for the label end for the use based on an agreed fee. But it's just one of those where we had time. There was no, you weren't clearing it last minute. And it just benefits the creative. I think if there's that much thought goes on at the very start. So if you know someone who is a copywriter, then if you're giving them your music, then somewhere it might get into the ether. Obviously, if they're a fan of yours, it might help, but they can only work with what will work for picture. So it's kind of based on what obviously the clients on Post have to sign that off. So it's down to what works for, which is.
What was the reaction when they saw that?
I'm really happy with it. Just
Yeah.
It was.
I would hope so.
It's such a great shot.
Yeah.
That's so
But it was just the way it was shot and the whole lot come together. It picked up an award at Sharks last year in Kinsale for best use of music as well. So, but it's just those kind of things that there's space around it.
Had you seen the ad like when you came to place the music?
No, well, it came from the creative. So they obviously had a storyboard in mind.
Okay.
Sometimes you get the storyboard might be there from the creative team, and they might bring in a director based on that. The director might suggest a track. So you could have the creative might suggest a track, the director might suggest a track, I might suggest a track, and the client might have a favourite. So it's kind of working between everybody to work with something that has the most impact.
Well, you
really.
knew you could clear Richard Hawley, open up your door.
Yeah.
You had it in the catalogue.
Yeah.
So obviously that was your life straight away was going to be easier if that was the thing that floated the client's boat.
Exactly, yeah. And I think as well, it's kind of an example of Richard Hawley's obviously been around quite a while, so he's just ploughing his own thing. He's doing what Richard Hawley does without a view to, I'm going to create this kind of music that would suit this kind of advertising. But because he's a certain type of writer and he's a certain kind of vocal, then he gets picked up for different styles of use, depending on what the picture is. So I guess it's kind of like, if you're thinking about, I'm going to change my style to suit advertising, it doesn't necessarily work, and it doesn't really work.
I think like the Villagers track is a good example.
Yeah.
Like Ireland's Ancient East, I think is the campaign. It doesn't have that uplifting, it wouldn't be.
Because it was in different versions, but it wasn't even the original. It was a Rack Studio version
right.
that they use on it. So it's kind of, that's the thing as well. If you're an artist, if you've done multiple versions, you have more options as well.
So what was the version? What was the difference with the original? Or the one that was released? Sorry.
It was more of a stripped back version.
Okay.
From Rack Studios in London, where a lot of artists would do kind of the Rack sessions for Spotify or whatever. So.
Sorry. Okay. So a Rack session. Okay.
But it's just kind of one of those live sessions where the track kind of has something different, whereas the full, because it's based around a bedtime story, the full track probably would have been too loud.
Can I ask you a question there about Richard Hawley and his involvement? Does he have any control over how it's used, or does he have an opt-out if he sees something and he thinks, I don't like that? No, I don't think he will. Obviously, he doesn't in that
What you
instance.
generally do is send a storyboard before when you're going for approval.
Or a copy of the ad.
Yeah, like if it's
or
time.
a good description.
Yeah, just a script and or a storyboard.
And does it happen when you're in the 11th hour or half 11 or 1 minute to midnight?
I know
and
people
someone
it's
said-
happened to, yeah, with big artists and just
Oh,
it's been
yeah.
pulled.
I've had syncs declined, lots,
Yeah, like it's just kind of
lots and lots.
it's last minute.
Or they want 20 grand, you know, or whatever they want.
Or
is
the
prohibitive.
artist is like, Crosby, Stills, Nash, Young. Okay, so they are very much, naturalists and that type of thing. So they didn't want to put any of their music in branding to begin with. So to even be thought of in a Coca-Cola commercial would have been horrid. And now, Neil Young still is that way, but the rest of them are a little more lenient with their
Yeah.
music. But Neil Young is
Very difficult to clear.
really difficult, yeah. So they have the power to do it.
You hear these stories about Dylan as well when he was what was the first thing that he cleared, or the first time was it for I feel like
I can't remember, but yeah, he's another one that, he simply doesn't need the money.
well that's it, like it's like
Those
why
big, those big 70s acts just don't need the
yeah,
money.
right.
Fleetwood Mac,
Yeah,
you know.
it's-
from your experience, Terry, how do you added to your catalogue? So you have added a lot of classic artists, a lot of great songs going back the years. How do you add to your catalogue when it's not necessarily new music, it's music that already exists and you want to bring them on board?
Well, in two forms. If we can buy the catalog, we will.
Okay.
But, there's a lot of big players out there with venture capital money, so it's getting
Wow.
harder and harder to be, elbowing with the big guys because we're an independent, and we're happy to be an independent, by the way. But another way we do it is by representing their catalog on a worldwide or territorial basis, whatever we can get. I know that, with respect to Morris Music, we represent them on a global basis for film and TV. So we know we have, Hang On Sloopy is one of our songs, It's a same part of that catalog. And so, we look for those iconic catalogs and we find out what their status is, who's representing them, are they happy? We've taken some away from our friends at Warner, we've taken some away from our friends at Sony and Universal because they feel, I'd rather be a big fish in a little pond rather than the opposite. And they know that everyone in our company knows who they are, what their music is, and that they're important to our bottom line. So we're going to treat them with respect. And that goes for any music.
For new
that we
artists, sorry,
obtain.
how long are those deals? If you sign a new artist and their music, say a bunch of songs, how long would those deals normally be for?
3 years. And one of the reasons why is because on a global basis, when we're collecting the revenue, the foreign societies really demand that you have at least 2 full cycles because they cannot continue to re-register catalogs year after year or semester after semester. We have a backlog in a lot of the European societies. I don't believe that PRS or IMRO has that problem, but SESM does, GAMA does, because they have a ton of copyrights being shifted about so quickly. So the initial period would be 3 years, because if you look at it, Buma Stemra pays for their film and TV for 2018. We won't get that until November of 2019. That's almost 2 years into a deal. So that's why it's not unreasonable. And the new deals we're doing is not so much everything you produce belongs to our deal with you. It's whatever songs we select, those are exclusive to us, but you can go work with Juliet and you can go work with our Frontier and you can do whatever you want, and that's your business with them. We
So
have
it's
no control over
just
that.
the book of the songs that you
Yeah,
that you
that's
like.
that's the new way it's being handled
Okay.
for original music. And we just started our music production catalog. We kicked it off in September. Our first commercial was a California Almond commercial. And the first time I saw the commercial, I read the brief, got the song, and I was in India. And I turned on the TV in my hotel room in Jaipur, and it was a cable retransmission from a German ZDF channel, and it was our commercial, and I personally doing the happy dance in my hotel room all by myself, going, this is great. But it's kind of an awesome thing, and this was an instrumental piece that the director fell in love with, and it was a brand new instrumental piece.
That leads me nicely on to my next question, which was what style, genre, I know this is probably how long is a piece of string, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there stuff that generally just places better in terms of genre? I mean, key signature, time signature, 3444, whatever BPM you're looking at? Or am I actually just talking in terms of like stuff that doesn't matter and you're just going with feel? Juliet?
I think for like film and TV, it really doesn't matter, because a scene is a scene, and you just don't know what will work, and they're all different, and the tone is different.
It's all tonal.
It's all in the tone. I mean, in my experience with advertising, you could perhaps generally say that if you were writing something that is uplifting, the briefs that I have gotten would be more searching for that.
And yes, is there maybe a move back the other way where some of the more subtle, understated stuff is working?
Definitely. They're just talking about the villagers there, or
exactly.
Hall, so that's just a generalization.
Yeah, I mean, it's the tone and feel of the scene.
Yeah.
And then, especially if it's original, and you've got the singer-songwriter or the writer there that can kind of change things up as needed, that's an extra added advantage. And oftentimes we have to do that, especially with trailers. We were talking about that, and commercials, because they trailerize music. That means that, I will tell you, all the music we get has multiple stems to it. We demand that. And the reason being is that we often have the ability to have more of the music used if we have stems from the original recording, because they may not want to use the complete recording. For one reason or another, a creative reason, they have said, you know what, I just want piano and vocals, or I just want guitar and vocals. I don't want the whole band. And we need to be able to provide that to them. So think about that when you're writing music. Have those stems ready, because that could mean the difference of your song being placed or not.
And you go back to the artist and you say, can you do this for me?
Absolutely.
And if they say yes, we're quids in.
And most of the time they have it. I mean, they haven't gotten rid of all their product and all their work.
Yeah, but going back to, I would say, older music maybe.
Older music, well, you can tell that story.
Yes, it's more typical, it is.
Yeah. Because didn't you take an older song, you had to have part of it remastered? That commercial you were talking about. We went through a lot of stuff in the green room. But there was he had dealt with an older song that all they had was the mix.
Actually, yeah, it wasn't even that old. It might have been 5 or 6 years old, but they'd never mastered the instrumental. So we had to get the stems and a master instrumental within 24 hours.
Okay.
So if you've got someone who's really good engineer kind of close by, it can be beneficial.
A lot of bands wouldn't master their instrumentals because it's more money, and then
But
you wouldn't.
I think if you do it at the same time, I know most engineers here won't charge you that much more if you do it at the exact same time as you're getting your tracks mastered.
Okay.
It could be maybe 25% extra or something like that.
Well, and I'll tell you, we represent Richie Ramone for some of his back material and all of his new stuff. His newest album, Cellophane, Shameless, the show, loved it. And they said, can you give us not only the album as it's recorded, but also all of the instrumental tracks, because they love the vibe and the edge of his music. So that's what we did. We gave it to the editors, so they've got both.
Do you get paid if they do or do only when they use the music? Is
Only
that
when
right?
they use it.
So when you said about Guardians of the Galaxy clearing a lot of stuff but then not using it, if they don't use
They
it...
get quotes on everything.
Okay.
They will send you a final, acceptance letter once your music gets used. So, they'll send you a quote request. You say, yes, I approve.
Okay.
And then they will confirm the quote.
So you just said you had a brief there for €3,500. How big do they get?
Well, here's a commercial brief
Okay.
for Quest Nutrition, headquartered in sunny LA. Quest Nutrition has been increasing in popularity due to its focus on fresh and healthy ingredients in their products, ranging from energy-boosting protein bars to nutritious, made-to-order, pre-planned meals. They want to do a commercial. The creative note is the commercial spot is comprised of 3 distinct Quest Nutrition products, including rich and creamy chocolate chip cookie dough, decadent white chocolate and raspberry, and a third flavor to be determined. And I'm already hungry reading this. And then it tells you, and I'll just read it because this is like the most expansive one we've gotten in a long time. The scene will be an up-close shots of each dessert with a voiceover. Think comedic actor Bill Hader, reminding you of the days when you were a kid and couldn't have a sweet treat because it contained too much sugar. How could that be? Or was that too fattening? Yikes. Well, now you can indulge in a heavenly treat that also has health benefits. The camera will pan from the close-up shots to a wide shot introducing Quest Nutrition products. So they said, because we will see multiple scenes in the commercial, the songs should ideally have compelling changes, shifts, breaks, etc., to support the varied scenes, and a nice crescendo to punctuate the reveal of the Quest brand at the end of the spot. Exactly. And all of this in 30 seconds.
Jesus.
So, and then they tell you music, mid-tempo instrumental, confident, quirky, unconventional, tongue-in-cheek. They give you genre, instrumental only, and, electronic, classic-esque, alternative pop, international remix or rework to reimagine. I mean, it's amazing.
Do they expect a recording artist?
Well, and guess what they're going to pay for that?
Go on.
The budget is $50,000 all in.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah, we actually do have music placed for it. So, and so it's amazing, and it tells you what rights that they're asking for. Internet in perpetuity, theatrical run for an 8-week period, and domestic in-flight on JetBlue Airlines for a 4-week period, all for $50,000. And they may or may not ask to own the copyright. That happens from time to time.
Doesn't happen here in advertising.
I know it's sad, but it's
So somebody else won't use it?
Yeah, if these companies are getting very smart. We know that we're in the business, especially in the end of the business, that earns the most money. Film and TV is the savior because we get it from so many different angles. And so they're getting hip to the fact that they could have a publishing company and they could have rights into a copyright. So we personally don't give our copyrights away. And obviously when we represent somebody else's copyright, it's not for sale. So some of them try to push, and we have to be in a position to, with our client, to say, do we say yes or do you say no? If you're new to the business, it's a song you think you don't mind, giving to the company and you want to get the exposure, that's one thing. I think copyrights matter, and I think if you own something, you ought to keep it, or if you enter into an agreement with a company that's going to further your career, there's a value to that. So sharing in a copyright might be something that they ask.
Sharing in the copyright.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I
John.
was just going to ask
Go
you about
ahead.
fees. I don't know whether advertising fees in Ireland are quite at that level. I don't know what your experience is.
It can be, yeah. No,
Yeah.
it varies very much on
Back in the day, definitely.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
without getting into specifics, it kind of starts with TV is the bulk still of the quote, and then after that online, radio, cinema. But generally what people try and do, because they're creating so much content that they want to use for online content pieces throughout the year. So it's not just the TV ad, it's variations and versions and cut downs, yeah.
John, do you tend to represent artists or songs? And let me qualify that. If you hear a great song from an emerging artist and you think, I love that song, I don't know about the rest, would you take the time to spend with the song?
Both, yeah. I try and work with the artist because I come from, when I was at Warner, I was marketing manager there, so I came from a thing where you're developing artists, and sync isn't just the only part of it for me. So I would give a little bit of help where I can on positioning, and if, say, I know, I used to work with MCD as well, so if I know a booker who I think would work well with that act, I'll give them a nod. And it kind of, because sync can't just be a thing on its corner, some people said last week, it's a gift, so you can't bank on it, but you should try and build momentum in all the areas at the same time. Okay. So with your radio, if you get a brief and they want to track people know, if it's on the radio, it helps. The more ammunition I have, the better. But obviously, if yourself and the artist agree there's one song that's stronger, then you'll kind of go with that in the short term. But you won't discount the other tracks either.
And yet music supervisors are really just looking for the song at the end of the day.
Yeah, but it's for me, it's obviously it's based on the brief, but for advertising, you can, there's probably a little more room to push different tracks through.
Okay.
If the brief is quite general.
Okay.
But with some of the briefs that, some of the first briefs, obviously, that Terry has, they're quite specific. So I don't have an Italian pop music from.
What? Get some of that stuff.
At a
86 to 88. 84 to 86?
Sarone, I guess.
Not
is
so
kind
sure
of
about that.
stuff.
No, it's gone on that, I have to say. Let's have a look at Juliet. Before we kick off and have a look at your placement, you want to do you want to set it up?
Yeah, so there's 2 tracks here. The first is by an American composer, and that's about the first 30 seconds. And then the second piece is by an Irish composer, Steve Lynch. And I really just love the second track in particular. And I like the way it starts really small, and he has this solo cello that I think really works with the scene where Conor McGregor is starting off his career. So it kind of gives you empathy. So I just think it's a nice use of a piece to tell a story in a very short period of time. And then it builds to a really nice crescendo. And then the opening piece is a real sort of Conor McGregor doing his fighting, big, brash, loud piece. And
Let's do it.
it's a great
Yeah, I love
trailer.
that.
It's a great trailer.
That's
yeah, it's really
it's
great.
better than the movie, I have to
Yeah,
say.
it's
That
much better
trailer
than
is.
the movie. Don't record that bit. But the interesting thing about that is the editor picked that, and editors can be quite important people to talk to, and they often choose things. So it was the editor of the trailer who really liked the composer, went onto his website, saw that track.
The second track, Steve Lynch.
second
The
track.
Steve Lynch track.
Yeah.
Who is Steve Lynch?
He's a composer, really very successful composer, composing a lot in advertising.
Yeah, it's a great
but
track.
very talented. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah.
I got
He do-
goosebumps watching that.
Yeah, he's great.
Well, I mean, it's meant to make you want to watch the movie. I've
Yeah.
already seen the movie, and you know, the movie's okay, but
you're
the
gonna watch it
trailer
again.
is awesome, in fairness.
And that's a good trailer, because that's the job of the trailer, you know. But you know
Yeah.
more about trailers, and that's a whole other.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that is really important to understand is that the music supervisor isn't the only one that has a say in what music happens, and especially in television. Oftentimes, it's the editor that's going to pull from the database, and as long as you can get your music into their database, you get a blanket license with the network for your music to appear there. In that database, they can use anything. They know it's pre-cleared, and they just let you know when it gets picked up. And those editors become the de facto music supervisor in placing all of that
Right.
music.
So that's one more person to get in with.
And trailer houses are all about editors. That's what they do.
Okay, very interesting. I actually have lots of more, but you know what? I just feel like this room has a lot of questions too. So I'm going to ask one more, because we kind of alluded to it, and it's a future trends thing, which I think you guys are all over. Look, you mentioned it there, the idea that a commercial brand or the movie house or whatever will become the publisher. They'll start playing publisher. They'll sign the excuse me. They may sign the artist directly. Potentially, is that something that could happen? Where is that crazy? Where
I guess Red Bull do it, and they've been doing it for a while. They have a publishing company, and they have a record label, and they run the Red Bull Music Academy, and they've invested in music for the last 20 years, I guess. And they've kind of put in now a production library, so they are actually signing composers. So, and obviously they generate a lot of action content for everything that they do throughout the year. So they're kind of a standalone. They think they have about maybe 10 artists. Just a band like Twin Atlantic from Scotland will be one of their main artists, but they still use a distributor to get out there. So they use Cobalt as the back end. But in terms of having like the kind of Red Bull Media House, if you go onto the website, you'll see the different strands of what they do. But I suppose they're kind of like, they've been quite ahead of the game.
John McCallion, Terry Nelson Carpenter, Juliet Martin. This has been your life. It's been sing. It's been great. You know what? Wonderful.
Thank you, Terry.
Pleasure. All right, keep an eye on the IMRO website for all the sync and all the other stuff going up. And thanks for coming out.